Hi, my name's Timothy Teagan. I'm a Boogaloo boy, 22 years old. This is a question I ask myself nearly every day.
Okay.
The divide in our country is becoming more and more self-evident. Mm-hmm. The divergent tactics are based on perpetual fear.
Yep.
And this is especially true in my peer group. Many of us are losing faith in the American political system. Many of us believe most of the politicians are enemy of the people. I want to know how I can restore hope to my countrymen.
Well, here's the thing, and thank you for that question, Timothy. There's a reason that the divide is growing ever worse. It's because it has to. Republicans and Democrats have total control of every lever of power in government. And it doesn't take a genius to step back and say, wait a second. It seems like no matter who I vote for, I get pretty much the same thing. The rhetoric might be a little different, but my taxes go up, the spending goes up, the debt goes up, the number of laws go up, the amount of growing of the gap between those who have and those who have not continues to rise, the cost of healthcare continues to rise, the cost of higher education continues to rise, the educational outcomes in public education continue to go down. All of the indicators that are bad continue to go up, and all of the indicators that are good continue to go down, and it doesn't seem to matter which of these two get elected, and I keep seeing them work together every day. I'm starting to think they're both in on it, and I'm starting to think that it's intentional. So here's what they do. They keep everyone at each other's throats because they have to. As the daylight in policy between Republicans and Democrats dims down to the point where there is no substantive difference between a Democrat and a Republican, to the point where I could list out a given politician's policies and you'd have maybe a 50-50 chance of telling me whether it's a Democrat or Republican. As that gap narrows between them, the theater of difference between them has to widen and widen and widen, so that now you're not just voting for a liberal or a conservative, you're voting for a filthy America-hating communist or an evil dictator fascist Nazi, because if they allow you for even a moment to get off of each other's throats and take a step back and say, oh no, you're all friends, you're all in on this, you're screwing us together, their entire system would fall apart, because their power and their influence and the idea of their inevitability that they'll win every election, it's completely illusory. The power's in your hands. You are the power. You, the American people, can decide who wins office. So they have to do it that way. It is a necessity of the system that the Republicans have worked hand in hand to create for the past several decades, requires not only for there to be a massive and growing divide among the American people, but for that rate of division to widen and widen and widen ever more, ever so. So the way that you get hope back is by you share a hopeful message. You say to people, it doesn't have to be this way. Like I said to Mindy, you say, what don't you like about this side? Okay, well, this side does it too. Here's a side that doesn't do any of that. And again, this is where you come in. This is where the grassroots army comes in. Meet people where they are. When they complain to you about those evil Democrats, or they complain to you about those evil Republicans, and you go, that's terrible, these people sound horrible, tell me what they're doing to you. And then they start talking to you about bad Republican policy, empathize with them. You don't have to start off by saying, yeah, well, your side did that too. You don't have to do that, because they didn't do that. And they take that as a personal attack. If I tell you your party did something, then you might take that as me saying you did something. So instead go, that's terrible. That's a terrible, terrible thing that has happened. And I see what the policy is that led to that. Here's how that happened. The policies that led to that. And you don't have to say which party did it. You just say, these are the policies that did it. And here are our common sense solutions of how to fix it. And when they go, well, what about my side? I'll go, I don't know. What has your side done? And then they can look into it and see, oh no, my side did all the bad things that led to me to hate just that one side. And my side worked directly with them as well. So that's how you do it. The message of hope is that the only way that we're going to come together as American people is if we give up the political theater narrative of the Republicans. That only serves them. They're not fighting. Do you see Donald Trump and Joe Biden fighting in the streets? Do you see Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell fighting in the streets? No. Because A, it would last 5 seconds before they all passed out, and B, they work together every single day. They work together every single day. The Republicans and Democrats agree on two things. One is that every day is a special new day to screw over the American people more than ever before. And the other thing they agree on is that no one should be able to challenge their position of authority. And that is how it plays out in their policies and their rhetoric and the fighting that happens in the streets that you saw. You told me you were in Minneapolis. You saw it firsthand.
Detroit.
Oh, Detroit, yes.
Detroit, Lansing. I've been in Columbus when there was a scuffle with the Proud Boys.
And you saw how it played out every single day. People that have bought into the narrative and they're fighting each other. So here is what happens. I don't know if I have time for that. Is there another is there a question behind you? Okay, so so here is a analogy I use a lot. Timothy, imagine if you and I go out to dinner, okay? And we go and we get out and we're having a great time at dinner, and someone comes in and hits me with a baseball bat. No one do this, by the way. Someone comes and hits me in the head with a baseball bat and shoots you a bunch of time in the chest and runs off, okay? I'm in the hospital for weeks. I have bleeding on the brain. I have a massive concussion. Weeks later, I'm still dealing with neurological issues. I'll probably always be affected by it, but I survive. You die on the operating table multiple times. You have multiple organ failure. You had organs removed. You don't breathe right. You'll never breathe the same again. You also have neurological issues and you have massive PTSD from what happened. But you have survived. Many months later, you're out of the hospital and you survived. Certainly much worse for wear, but you survived. We both survived. Then we get together and we're commiserating over what happened. And I go, man, I'm just glad we're okay. This was a terrible thing that happened, but I'm glad we're okay. And you go, well, I'm not okay, but I'm glad that we're both here. I'm glad that we both made it. I obviously got it worse than you did, but I'm just, I'm glad that we're both here. And I go, well, wait a second. You said that you got the worst of it. I got a concussion, man. I was in the hospital. I was in for weeks. I was in and out of consciousness. I still have dizziness and auras and migraines and all sorts of stuff. I don't think that how you can say that you got it worse. And you go, wait a second. Of course I got it worse. What how could you say that I didn't get it worse? I almost died. Terrible things happened to me. I'm never going to breathe right again. I've lost organs. If anything, you benefited from the fact that you just got hit in the head with a baseball bat and I got shot multiple times. And I go, well, wait a minute, pal. Maybe if you'd been nice to the guy, he'd have just hit you in the head with a baseball bat. That is the political discourse that we have in this country over and over again. We have it on racial lines, we have it on income lines, we have it on geographical lines, we have it on class lines, we have it on age lines. Every single way that you can divide people, we have these arguments every single day. What if instead we both said, wow, yeah, you did get it worse. Let's go find that guy and make sure he never does that to anyone else again. That is what they fear. They fear us, instead of fighting each other every day over who's getting it worse and who's getting it better, stepping back for a second and saying, wait a second, we're all victims here and they're all the victimizers. None of these people are our friends and we're going to stop them. A vote for Joe Jorgensen is a vote to step back, and a vote for Ben Bourne and James and everyone else that's running as libertarians up and down the ballot in all 50 states plus DC is a vote for saying we're on to your game and you are not going to let it happen anymore. So I hope that answered your question.
Be honored to speak, sir.
Thank you. Absolutely.